Hello everybody, give me a second, let me put the camera down. Hi, this is Kathy Msbarzone, and once again, we are on the subject of the Mike Defilipis Jr. case, and I have some new exciting leads that were never known in the last 5-6 years, and I'm about to make them public. And we're looking for investigators. Now, I have written to CBS investigation team, and I guess that's too fast. So what we need to do is maybe start with small newspapers. I might even go back to Joe Fosco. If he's such an investigator, maybe he can get this information. But our subject is about a running man on a murder case. Why is this guy Tom running, and who is he running from? They give you some pictures of somebody who lays he's running. He's running out of town. Even Mike Jabber says, you know, why would he move away? Maybe he's right. Why is he going to move away, this guy? He's running out of town. Okay? So the thing is, oops, I dropped my notes. I got some notes, and I want to talk to you guys about it. Set up some notes. So, what I want to first start out with is I want to read something that came in through Facebook, and it may be Tom. I think it is. Maybe he was in a moment of confession or looking for an alibi and he had to have everything all set up in his brain. Okay, so let me read some of this. Okay, here's some of the beginning. Okay, I was a friend of Mike's, and I just wanted to write you and send my deepest sympathy for your tremendous loss. I did not know Mike, meaning Defilipis, okay, very well. But for being a very careful person, I always got a good vibe from him, and he was a good guy and very generous. The first time I got to really sit down with him and get to know him a little, I remember laughing hysterically about, I can't even remember, but I do remember he had that contagious, hilarious laugh that could spread in a heartbeat. He reminded me a lot of my cousins, who ironically grew up in Elmwood Park. I was with Mike, Tom and Mike Defilipis, on the night of the 21st, and he has in parentheses Monday, which is during the week. Listen to what he says he does. It was a great night. Mike picked me up, and we went downtown to a couple of nightclubs that Mike knew and drank. I heard that there's a new nightclub called the Mid, so whoever, maybe the DJs, if there's some older DJs that know about the Crowbar and know about VIP, maybe the bartenders nowadays, because they do, generally you find one bartender, you find them at the next bar. A lot of people circulate, okay? And so that's what happened starting Monday the 21st. Defilipis was found dead, or pronounced dead, according to the coroner, on the 24th, okay? Which probably would have been a Friday. And we argued about who would pay for the drink, so as I kind of mentioned that before, okay? There's a few things I haven't mentioned I want to bring up about some of the things he said. At the final days, at the end of a 6-week period of going back and forth, he regretted his alibi. So I'm going to say this. Oh, about him talking about cousins in Elmwood Park. Well, who could we find in Elmwood Park? Elmwood Park, it's true, it's a small town. Everybody knows each other. Who could his cousins be? Or is he making it up? Okay, we don't know. Okay. We didn't hear from him back and forth or whatever. Okay. I got my computer 2 days ago. That's why I haven't had time to write. I'm somewhat regretting speaking on Mike's dealings, meaning Defilipis, okay, and this is Tom doing this, because I really have nothing but rumors. That means that this guy Tom is in contact with somebody from Chicago after the death, because this is in 2010. I did not know Mike that much, and I heard more about him after he passed than I heard while he was living. I am surprised the police did not give you details, etc. They know much more than I do. I was one of the last people to see him alive, and it was a really scary thing, and I was wary of every one around the poker game. He's always reverting back to this poker game because Mike Defilipis was starting a poker game, and he was armed with a gun the last night we hung out because he was on edge, apparently about the robbery. And information was coming out, who set the games up, etc. There's two things in that sentence. So that means I didn't put this in the timeline. I might make a new timeline now. He's saying, okay, so we know there was a poker game robbery that was almost robbed by gunpoint, however that's done. And then we know that after that there was another poker game, or that's what Tom said. Remember that Mike Jabber, the only witness we have, the pathetic person that I talked to, I don't know, maybe in his pathetic way he's telling the truth. He's the only person, again, that could verify that from the time there was a poker robbery, which was sometime before the 17th, because of the rat and wreath, to the 24th, his actual death. He is the only person, Mike Jabber, the boxer, he's the only person that can verify after the poker game, was there another poker game? I'm going to read this line to you again, because this might be an alibi. And this guy, Tom, who's running, might be trying to set up the people back in Chicago. And maybe it was only him. Maybe there was a guy fight. Who knows? Maybe he ripped his own friend off. You never know. The shadow knows. I'm going to read this again. I was wary of everyone around the poker game because Mike was starting a poker game, meaning Defilipis, and he was armed with a gun the last night we hung out because he was on edge, apparently about the robbery, and information was coming out on who set up the games, etc. And now remember, when Jabber's argument, a little earlier I had an argument that I read on my second video, when he's saying that I doubt if Mike would have brought a gun to the poker game and robbed the poker game, meaning Mike Defilipis Jr., and it's like, just a Jabber saying that, and it's like, it took me by surprise. But perhaps maybe Jabber and Tom set up, it could happen, because of the way his insinuations and his arguments, they don't make any sense, and they catch me by surprise, and I go back over them, I'm like, well, why the heck did he say that? Okay, so, he was arguing and bringing up the gun, and he should actually, the fact that Mike Jabber said that he verified that the poker robbery guys, there's 3 black men that supposedly robbed his poker game, he said that he verified it with the detectives. You know what my questioning is on that? Why would the detectives give that kind of information out? You see what I'm saying? Why would they give on a homicide? The parents cannot get any information. So how does Mike Jabber get all that information? And he just had that information right away because I had asked him. So I put the words in his mouth. See what I'm saying? That's why I wonder if it was a setup. But set up from whom? That's what I'm trying to say. Here's your Mike Defilipis, okay, this is Tom again, said that he was starting his own poker game and he wanted to talk to Mike Jabber. Again, he might be setting up a situation. I have no clue what the deal was, but I had a dead rat put on my doorstep and a funeral wreath put on the side of my house. I had told everyone my concern. So who's everyone? The person you heard rumors from who had set up the game, right? My concern, and Jabber called me the night they found Mike and told me I should get out of my house because it could be the robbery. Well, when I talked to Mike, catching him by surprise this last year, in 2014, last fall, he said that he had checked with the detectives and the robbery guys were still in jail. See, there's something here. That's why I'm doing this over and over again. And he says, I grabbed some things and ran out in the rain and grabbed a cab to the downtown to a friend's house. Okay, if the poker game is at Division in Clybourne, why would he go that way? That's weird. Okay, I told my roommates my concerns, and they wanted out of the place immediately. I only went back with friends briefly to get clothes, etc., because I was so freaked out. I didn't want to live that way, so I decided to move. Okay, and she wanted to try something different. I felt I was just hanging out with the wrong people, and I needed to get away. I am sitting on the fence whether I move back now. I miss my friends in the city, in Chicago. I have visited 2 or 3 times and flew back to talk to the detectives. Again, we can't verify it, and we don't know that. And then when I asked Jabber about the poker game, he says that because he personally was the one that went to the cops to get the poker game robbers, the 3 black men. He would not give, like, I was talking to him on Facebook, and I asked him what the names of the detectives, because he's telling me I should talk to them. They have the answers. But he wouldn't answer me back. He disappeared after that. He just disappeared. Okay. But, yeah, I knew Mike vaguely, and all, meaning Defilipis, okay, vaguely, and all I know is that he was a really well-known, respected guy. He was a generous guy who liked to be around people. He wasn't a bad guy or a crack dealer. He might have cut corners, but as far as I know, he was outstanding. I heard the opposite. I hate to say that, but I heard he ripped off a few people. I heard the opposite. I don't know. A crack dealer, I heard the opposite. Okay. The cops threw me way off when they said he was involved with robberies. They said he just made a big score, but I don't know him like that. That was a shocker. I will be visiting, now this is Tom saying no, it's not Jabber, just so you know. I will be visiting if I don't pack up soon and move home. Okay, but yeah, I hope they catch whoever it was, and hope you have answers. Take care. And the guy changed the name that he was under in Facebook to a movie star's name. So we need to know if there's truly cousins of him, whoever's in the nightclub scene, this midnight club, that's a new place the kids are hanging out. Can you verify that there's actually a Tom out there who knew Mike Defilipis Jr.? I mean, who was there really a black girl? Who was the girlfriend at the time? Yeah, why would the detectives tell Jabber that the robbers were still in jail during the homicide? They'd call them in downtown, wouldn't they? During a homicide? Oh, and then how does that work? I mean, how does the crime scene work? Okay? Every contact leaves a trace. I've been kind of trying to find out what happens on a crime scene, the crime scene. I could tell you a few things. I mean, I could tell right here. What is the average time to search a scene? Because remember that Tom said at 9 o'clock on the 23rd, December 23rd, that Mike Jabber had called him to tell him the news of they found the guy dead, Defilipis Jr. Well, the coroner's report says the 24th they found him dead. So, how long does it take before the cops would actually look in the cell phone and actually start calling the numbers in the cell phone? Think about it. I'm just going to read this. This is from this book called Crime Scene. Okay. What is the average time to search a scene? Okay, the time varies with the type of crime. Burglaries scene may be processed within a few hours. A homicide team may take several days or even weeks. You got to remember it's a homicide. Okay, so why would they give that information to Mike Jabber, the boxer? Do you ever see him swing? Look on YouTube at some of his boxing. He knocked somebody out at some of his boxing matches in 31 seconds, and that was, he was in rare form, men's health form. I mean, come on. This guy was vicious, and he has a wild temper. You know what boxers are like. They have a temper. Swinging from underneath. Okay? So, 31 seconds he knocked somebody out. Okay? They would never start calling somebody right the first night. okay? I'm just telling you, it wouldn't be like that. The crime scene team is concerned with being thorough and not missing an item of evidence. They should not be pressured. They are done when they are done, okay? So, you know, that's what I'm trying to say to you is like, I try to find something as every contact leaves a trace. Truth, okay? Just trying to find out something, okay? Something I could actually find out. Oh, this is on crime scene processing, okay? It says a drop of blood on the gym shoe, a piece of blood on the ground or on the stairway, the impression of a spade used to dig a basement grave, DNA picked up from a sneeze, a few microscopic traces of glass blown back on the clothes of an intruder. These have been the first threads of forensic investigation discovered in the collection of the crime scene. Leftover particles from actions that have ripped the fabric of people's lives. Before an investigation can start, evidence must be collected. So that would include the phone, right? The phone records. The scene itself, whether inside, outside, or mobile, okay, a mobile phone, has to be gone over as if the processors were exploring a site on Mars. What's this? Why is this here? Why isn't this here? What does this all mean? That's what I'm trying to say, is that how soon would the homicide team have called Mike Jabber, the boxer, and what were the questions, and why the hell would they tell him anything? They would call him in. If he'd be 12 hours into questioning if he was one of the last people or that week, especially if there was a poker game robbed, if there was a police report, okay? So these are my questions that I have. Tom changes his mind in the end because he realizes he doesn't need an alibi. Maybe he was just checking to see what the cops knew. Instead of arguing about the Defilipis case, about Defilipis bringing a gun to the poker game, why does he argue about that, okay? I mean, those are things. He's arguing against Tom. Why doesn't he verify it? Why doesn't he tell one of his friends, whoever his friends are out there, because I'm going to make this public to as many people I can, especially in the nightclub area. Look at Tom. Look at Mike Jabber. Verify with him, was there a poker game? One more poker game afterwards that Mike Defilipis Jr. would have started bringing a gun to the game? You see, that it's that timeline. There's one more thing I want to mention before I go. There's on the Anthony Catalano case, there's a mention, a lead that came in on a Nick Francis, that they brought him in for questioning, but they let him go because his father was, Neil Francis was deceased now, who was a really big time detective that did a lot of busts, and because cops know each other, nepotism or whatever it is, they're not going to bust this guy. Tell me if this is true. Who knows a Nick Francis? Have Nick Francis come forward. Let's talk about this. And then this Mike Bartucci guy. Somehow maybe this Mike Bartucci guy somehow gave the information about Nick Francis. That part there on the Anthony Catalano case is not clear. There's nobody that I know that knew either Mark Bartucci to know Tony Catalano or Nick Francis to know them. And Tony Catalano's not really from Elmwood Park. He's from the outskirts, and any of his friends were away from anywhere else. So, but any of the leads on any of these things, please come forward. I'm hoping to find answers, especially any kind of DJs that are out there, like at Mid Nightclub or Castle Nightclub, and you start naming them. I don't know them all. I'm kind of above that age group. So anybody that could come forward, any old girlfriends of Defilipis or Tom, bring Tom's girlfriends in. Anybody that can verify that Tom's real, please do that. This is the Msbarzone on the Defilipis case.